During our New Year's Eve dinner with my son and his wife, her phone suddenly lit up on the table. A message appeared. Did he sign the documents tonight? But what made my blood run cold wasn't the question. It was the sender's photo. My face, my exact face staring back at me. As I leaned closer, she went pale and whispered desperately, "Please don't open the next message." That night, I decided to uncover the truth. What I discovered would change everything forever. I'm thankful you're here with me right now. Before I reveal what happened next, I need to know something. Where are you watching from, and what time is it there? Comment below. Candlelight flickered across the dining table that New Year's Eve, casting dancing shadows in the room I'd called home for 40 years. My son Maxwell sat to my right, his wife Natalie across from him, and my daughter Margot at the far end. The roasted duck was perfect, the wine expensive, the conversation polite. Everything looked right, but something felt off. I couldn't place it, that subtle tension beneath the surface. Natalie had been unusually attentive all evening, refilling glasses, complimenting every dish with an enthusiasm that felt rehearsed. She'd been my daughter-in-law for 8 years, and while I'd never disliked her, I'd never fully trusted her either. There was something calculated about her, like a chess player always thinking ahead. "Dad, this is incredible," Maxwell said, reaching for seconds. "You've outdone yourself." "Your mother always said the secret was in the brine," I replied. Catherine had been gone 5 years now, and sometimes the absence still hit me at unexpected moments. Natalie's phone buzzed on the table. She'd left it face up beside her wine glass, unusual for someone who normally guarded it like a vault. This time she didn't reach for it immediately. The screen lit up. I wasn't trying to look, but from where I sat, I could see it clearly. What made me freeze wasn't the message itself. It was the sender's photo, my face. Not a picture of me, but unmistakably, undeniably, my face. Same gray eyes, same lines around the mouth, same slight asymmetry I'd lived with for 72 years. The sender's name, L. The message read, "Did he sign the documents tonight?" My hand trembled, reaching for my water glass. Natalie's eyes snapped to her phone, and when she looked up, all color had drained from her face. "Please," she whispered, barely audible over Margot's chatter about her upcoming gallery opening. "Don't open the next message." Don't open the next message, which meant there was another one, which meant this wasn't a wrong number. I set down my fork, slowly buying time. Who was this person with my face? What documents? And why was my daughter-in-law involved? "Excuse me," I said, standing with forced calm. "Need to check on dessert." In the kitchen, I gripped the granite counter, steadying my breathing. Through the doorway, I heard Maxwell ask Natalie if something was wrong, her answer too quiet to hear. I'd built my real estate empire on reading people, understanding what wasn't being said. 35 years running Ashford properties in Boston had taught me to trust my instincts, and right now every instinct screamed that something was very wrong. When I returned with apple tart, Natalie's phone had disappeared, tucked into her purse, clutched in her lap like a secret. "Everything okay, Dad?" Margot asked, her artist's eye catching what others missed. "Perfect, sweetheart." The rest of the evening crawled by. When they finally left around 11, I stood at the door watching Natalie practically drag Maxwell to their car. She kept glancing back at the brownstone at me with an expression I couldn't read. Fear guilt. I locked the door and leaned against it. Outside, snow had started falling on Beacon Hill's cobblestone streets. Inside, the house felt suddenly too quiet, too empty. I watched my family leave, their voices fading into the winter night. Something was wrong. Very wrong. The house fell silent after they left. I couldn't sleep. Something about that message gnawed at me. I climbed the stairs to my study, Catherine's old war room joke echoing in my mind. 35 years of Ashford Properties records lined the walls. I'd built this from a single Cambridge apartment listing to one of Boston's premier luxury firms. I opened my laptop, searching emails and records. Nothing. But that face kept replaying. Then I saw it. A folder I didn't create, estate planning urgent. I was meticulous about filing. Every document had its place. I didn't make this folder. I clicked. Documents that made my blood run cold. Transfer of ownership for my Boylston Street building. Power of attorney I'd never signed. A medical evaluation dated 3 weeks ago declaring me mentally unfit. An evaluation I'd never undergone. The signature looked exactly like mine. I stood fast chair, hitting the wall. Someone had forged these. Someone with access to my signature, my information, my medical history. Someone who wanted my properties. Working with a person who had my face. I grabbed my phone. Nearly midnight on New Year's Eve, but this couldn't wait. Margaret Hayes, my lawyer and friend for 20 years. She answered on the third ring. Vernon, what's wrong? Has anyone filed documents regarding my properties or mental competency recently? A terrible pause. Vernon, you asked me to process those 3 weeks ago. You came to my office. She stopped. That was you, wasn't it? The room tilted. I haven't been to your office since October. Oh my God. Stay there. I'm coming now. Don't sign anything. Don't talk to anyone. 25 minutes later, she swept into my brownstone silver hair, disheveled still in party clothes, leather briefcase in hand. Show me. She read each document with surgical focus. Even her poker face couldn't hide the concern. This is sophisticated, she said. Dr. Harrison on Newbury Street. Legitimate. Power of attorney language airtight. She turned to me. 3 weeks ago, someone came to my office claiming to be you. My stomach dropped. You met them. Briefly. My assistant checked ID Massachusetts license with your name and photo. They discussed estate planning, worried about children fighting over assets. She studied me. Vernon, they looked exactly like you. Same height mannerisms. If I hadn't known you 20 years, if I hadn't noticed the nervousness, I might not have questioned it. Nervous how? You're never nervous. And they kept checking their phone, waiting for instructions. The message on Natalie's phone. Sender L. The question about documents. 40 years ago, I'd hired an investigator to find the brother I'd lost. The twins separated from me at 7 when our father couldn't care for us both after Mom died. One went to a wealthy family, the other to foster care. The investigator tracked him to Pittsburgh. Difficult life. When I tried contact, he refused. Returned my letters unopened. I hadn't tried again. Until now, apparently, he'd found me. Margaret, I need to tell you something I've kept private 65 years. She waited. I had a twin brother. We were separated when we were 7 years old. Our father couldn't keep us both after our mother died. I met her eyes. I was adopted by the Ashfords in Brookline. They gave me everything. Education opportunity, eventually seed money for my business. And your brother went to another family in Pittsburgh, or so I was told. I tried to find him once 40 years ago. He wanted nothing to do with me. I gestured at the laptop. I think he might be my brother. My twin I lost 65 years ago. Margaret's face went pale. Then we have a serious problem. I barely slept that night. By morning I had more questions than answers. Then the doorbell rang. Natalie stood on my steps, face pale, eyes red from crying. Behind her, snow fell on Beacon Hill's quiet streets. Vernon, I need to talk to you. Alone. I let her in. We stood in the foyer. I didn't offer coffee, didn't invite her to sit. The woman in that photo, I said. Who is she? Natalie's composure cracked. I didn't mean for it to go this far. I made a mistake, and now I don't know how to stop it. I start from the beginning. She took a shaky breath. 6 months ago, pharmaceutical conference in Philadelphia. I saw her in the hotel lobby and swear, Vernon, I thought she was you. I called out before realizing it couldn't be. You were in the Hamptons that weekend? Him. Sorry, him. She wiped her eyes. I was curious. Approached him and we talked. He said his name was Leonard. Recently lost his husband. Struggling financially. Her voice dropped. Then he mentioned a twin brother he hadn't seen in decades. A twin who'd gotten all the luck. The bitterness in those words cut through me. He showed me an old photograph. You and him, maybe 6 or 7, identical. He told me how you were separated, how you got adopted by a rich family, while he ended up in foster care after his adoptive family returned him. Returned him, like a defective product. I felt sorry for him, Natalie continued. His daughter Leah was there too. Terrible apartment, barely scraping by. Leah had medical bills from a car accident. Leonard working 3 jobs just to survive. So you decided to help them steal from me? No, I thought maybe I could connect you two. If Leonard asked for help himself, you might give him something, a loan or a job. Her tears came faster. But Leah had different ideas. She said you owed them, that you'd lived this privileged life while they suffered, that it wasn't fair and you should share. And you agreed, not at first, but Leah's persuasive. She pointed out you have so much. The brownstone, the agency, those 3 luxury properties sitting empty. She said it wouldn't hurt you to share. My blood went cold. How does Leah know about those properties? The apartments were investment properties separate from my business. Inherited from Catherine's uncle, kept off-market for my children. Only family knew. Natalie looked away. I might have mentioned them and given Leah access to your files. What files? Your home office. Thanksgiving while you cooked, I photographed documents on your desk. Leah needed them to make the forgeries look authentic. My hands curled into fists. You violated my home, my trust. For people you'd known 6 months, I thought I was helping. You have more money than you could spend in 3 lifetimes. Would it really kill you to share with your own brother? That's not your decision. And stealing isn't helping. It's fraud. Criminal. I know, she sobbed. I know, and I want out. But Leah won't let me. She says if I back out, she'll tell Maxwell everything. Show him the photos, the documents I helped create. She'll destroy my marriage and send me to prison. Blackmail. Please, Vernon, don't let her destroy everything. But I barely heard her. My mind raced through implications. If Natalie had photographed documents, given Leah access to my files, what else had been compromised? My systems, my clients, my entire empire exposed. I needed to know how bad the damage was. I called Dylan Cooper, my IT security director. He arrived within the hour, laptop already open. Show me what you're seeing, he said, not bothering with pleasantries. Dylan was like that, all business, especially in a crisis. I'd hired him 5 years ago after a competitor tried to breach our systems. He'd built our security from the ground up. I showed him Natalie's confession, explained about the credentials she'd given Leah. His face darkened as he worked. Fingers flying across the keyboard, pulling up logs, tracking access points. The brownstone study felt suddenly too small, the winter morning light too bright. How bad is it? I asked. Dylan didn't answer immediately. That alone told me everything. Vernon, you've been compromised for 3 months, since early October. He turned the laptop toward me. Someone used legitimate credentials, Natalie's login, to install what we call a persistent backdoor. Even if we change all passwords now, they've got a pathway back in. My stomach dropped. What did they access? Everything. He pulled up screen after screen of logs. Client contracts, financial records, private communications, property valuations, NDA documents, everything of value in Ashford Properties systems. I thought about our client list, Boston's elite. Politicians who'd bought second homes through us, celebrities seeking privacy, foreign investors who valued discretion above all else. We'd built our reputation on that discretion. The person who did this knows what they're doing, Dylan continued. This isn't amateur hour. They went straight for the crown jewels. Client data, financial information, confidential agreements. And Vernon, they copied everything, downloaded it to external storage. Can you lock them out? Yes, but it'll take time. We need to rebuild the security architecture from scratch. Take the entire system offline for at least 48 hours. He met my eyes. But if they've already downloaded the files, that's a different problem. Meaning they have the data. Even if I lock them out today, they can still release what they've already taken. The implications hit me like a physical blow. If that information goes public, we're looking at lawsuits from every client whose privacy was violated. Hundreds of millions in damages, Dylan confirmed. Maybe more. Your agency's worth, what, $125 million? The lawsuits could exceed $350 million. It would bankrupt you and destroy the company. I walked to the window, staring out at the snow-covered streets of Beacon Hill. 40 years. I'd spent 40 years building Ashford Properties from nothing, one studio apartment listing in Cambridge, to an empire worth over $100 million, and now my own daughter-in-law's betrayal could destroy it all. My phone buzzed in my pocket. Unknown number. I pulled it out, expecting spam. Instead, a message that made my blood run cold. Hello, brother. Time to talk. Meet me at Charles River Esplanade, 3 p.m. today. Come alone. I stared at the screen. Behind me, Dylan was still typing, still trying to assess the damage, but all I could think about was that message. 65 years since I'd last seen Leonard. We'd been 7 years old, standing in our father's cramped apartment after Mom's funeral. When the social worker explained we were being separated, Leonard had cried. I tried to be brave. The Ashfords had taken me to their home in Brookline, given me their name, their wealth, their world. I'd tried to find Leonard once 40 years ago. He'd refused contact, returned my letters unopened, and now he wanted to talk. After 65 years, my brother wanted to talk, but was it really him or another trap? The wind off the Charles River cut through my coat as I arrived at 3. He was already there, waiting by the railing. Even from 50 feet away, I knew. The way he stood, shoulders hunched against cold. It was like looking at myself through a mirror that showed a harder life. I walked closer. He turned. Neither of us spoke. 2 old men staring at faces last seen at 7 years old. Faces aged identically in structure, but differently in wear. He looked like me. Same gray eyes, same lines, same asymmetry. But gaunt where I was solid. Yellowish skin, hollow cheeks. Vernon? My name and his voice sounded strange, familiar and foreign. Leonard. A younger woman stepped forward. 30-something, sharp features, cold eyes. My daughter Leah, Leonard said quietly. She didn't offer her hand, just studied me like a problem to solve. You look well, Leonard said, prosperous. You look tired and desperate enough to commit fraud. He flinched but didn't deny it. Let's skip the reunion, Leah cut in. You know why we're here. You built an empire off luck. Dad got nothing. Time to balance the scales. I built my empire through 40 years of work, I said coldly. 70-hour weeks. The Ashfords gave me education and capital, but I created everything else. While Dad cleaned houses, Leah shot back. Worked 3 jobs to raise me alone. You got handed everything. I got handed opportunity. What I did with it was my choice. I turned to Leonard. Why now after all these years? Leonard looked at the gray river. Because I'm dying. The words hung in cold air. Stage 4 pancreatic cancer. 3 to 6 months. He met my eyes. I wanted to leave Leah something. You have so much. That apartment's worth $7.5 million. I just wanted one for my daughter. Is that so terrible? Wanting isn't terrible, but stealing is. You could have asked directly. Would you have helped? Leah's voice harsh. When Dad contacted you 30 years ago, you ignored his letters. I never received letters. Liar! She pulled out her phone. Here's how this works. Transfer the Commonwealth Avenue apartment to Dad by 5 p.m. tomorrow. Clean transfer. And if I don't, I release every file I downloaded. Client contracts, financial records, private communications. All public. She showed her screen filled with Ashford data. I've also contacted Jordan Blake at the Manhattan Observer. He's very interested in how Vernon Ashford built his fortune while his dying twin lived in poverty. Jordan Blake, tabloid journalist who destroyed reputations. That story plus leaked files would be catastrophic. That's blackmail. That's justice. 5 p.m. tomorrow. Transfer the apartment or I burn your empire down. Leonard looked at me with something like regret or exhaustion. I'm sorry, Vernon. Truly? He turned away, shoulders slumped. But I've lost everything else. I can't lose her too. They walked away together, leaving me standing alone by the river as winter sun set over Boston. I drove back through the snowy streets, my mind racing. By the time I reached home, I knew what I had to do. I made calls. Within the hour, they gathered in my study. Margaret Hayes, Detective Davis, Riley, my son Maxwell, my daughter, Margot. The fire crackled in the hearth, but the room felt cold. Tell them what you told me, Margaret said. I explained. Leonard and Leah. The blackmail. The deadline. 5 p.m. tomorrow to transfer $7.5 million in real estate or watch my empire burn. We can file an emergency restraining order, Margaret said already, pulling documents from her briefcase. Computer fraud, identity theft, blackmail. The evidence is substantial. Natalie's testimony, the forged documents, Dylan's security logs. Detective Riley leaned forward. He was a grizzled man in his 50s, someone who'd seen enough white-collar crime to take it seriously. The restraining order's a start, but we need more. We need to catch her in the act. If Leah's planning to release those files, we arrest her for computer fraud right as she's doing it. Problem is timing, Margaret added. If she uploads the data before we can serve the order and make the arrest, the damage is done. Your client's information goes public, lawsuits follow, and even criminal charges against Leah won't undo that. So we're trapped, Maxwell said quietly. Not trapped, just running out of time. Maxwell started pacing. Dad, maybe we should just give her the apartment. It's $7.5 million, yes, but you're worth over $100 million. Better to lose one property than everything. I looked at my son. He meant well. He always did. But he didn't understand. If I give in to blackmail once, it never stops Maxwell. Leah gets the apartment today, comes back in 6 months wanting more. She'll always have those files, always have leverage. And what message does that send? That anyone with computer skills and a sob story can extort me? But they're family, Margot said softly. Dad, he's your brother, your twin, and he's dying. I know. The words came out harder than I intended. I know he's dying, sweetheart, but that doesn't make theft right, and it doesn't mean I should reward his daughter for criminal behavior. The room fell silent. Outside, snow continued to fall on Beacon Hill. There might be another way, I said finally. One more option before we go to war. Margaret raised an eyebrow. What are you thinking? I pulled out my phone, found Leonard's number, the one he'd texted from earlier. I'm thinking I need to talk to my brother, alone, without Leah controlling the conversation. I started typing. Meet me tonight, 10 p.m., the old playground near Boston Common. Just the two of us. I hit send. We waited 30 seconds, a minute. Then the reply came. I'll be there. Margaret looked worried. Vernon, what are you planning? I'm planning to try one more time. Brother to brother. I met her eyes. Leonard made a choice today. He chose Leah over doing what's right. But maybe without her there, he'll make a different choice. And if he doesn't, then we file the restraining order first thing tomorrow morning, and Detective Riley arrests Leah before she can upload anything. I stood. But I need to try. I need to know if there's any part of my brother left who remembers we were family once. Margaret didn't look convinced, but she nodded. Be careful. And Vernon, if this goes wrong, we need to move fast. I know. Snow fell softly as I walked through Boston Common toward the playground. The swings creaked in the wind. A figure stood alone in the darkness. Leonard. I approached slowly, my breath visible in the cold night air. The playground was empty except for us, the slides and climbing structures dusted white with fresh snow. Street lamps cast orange pools of light that didn't quite reach where we stood. He turned as I got close. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Just two old men standing in a children's playground at 10 at night, trying to bridge 65 years of silence. I remember a playground like this, I said finally. Before Mom died, you and I used to race to the swings. I always won, Leonard said quietly. You always cheated. The old joke came out automatically, and I saw the ghost of a smile cross his face. Yeah, I did. The smile faded. We stood there, the wind cutting through our coats. I tried to find you once, I said. 40 years ago. Hired a private investigator. He tracked you to Pittsburgh, said you'd married, had a daughter. But when I sent letters, you returned them unopened. I know. Leonard looked at the snow-covered ground. I was angry. Spent my whole life angry at you for getting the lucky draw. The Ashfords took you to their big house in Brookline, gave you their name, their money, their world. You became Vernon Ashford. And the Marshalls took me for 3 years. Then they had a biological child and didn't need me anymore. Returned me to the state like a library book. His voice was flat emptied of emotion by years of retelling. After that, 7 different foster homes. Aged out at 18 with nothing but a high school diploma and a chip on my shoulder. I felt the weight of that unfairness settle over me. You're right, I said. Life wasn't fair. I got lucky. You got dealt a terrible hand. He looked up surprised I'd admitted it. But stealing from me won't fix the past, Leonard, and destroying my life won't heal yours. No, his voice cracked. Then what will I'm dying, Vernon? 3 months, maybe 6. And my daughter. My brilliant, angry daughter, she's going to be alone. No family. No safety net. Just like I was at 18. Then let me help her. The right way. I took a step closer. Help me stop Leah. Tell her to delete the files. Walk away from this. No one has to go to prison. She won't listen to me. She will if you mean it. You're her father. Despite everything she's done, I think she loves you enough to hear you out. And then what? We just walk away with nothing? No. I met his eyes. I'll give you the Commonwealth Avenue apartment. Not because you blackmailed me, because you're my brother. Because 65 years ago, we were 2 scared little boys who got separated, and that wasn't our fault. What happened after the different lives we lived, that's not something either of us can change. But this right now, we can make this right. Leonard's hands trembled. 7.5 million. It's yours, free and clear. But Leah has to stop. She has to delete what she stole and walk away from the blackmail. If she doesn't, if those files go public, Detective Riley arrests her tomorrow and she goes to prison for years. Is that what you want to die, knowing your daughter's behind bars? No. The word came out as almost a sob. God, no. But she's so angry, Vernon, so convinced you owe us. Maybe I do. Maybe the universe owes you something for the raw deal you got. But this isn't the way. I gentled my voice. Please, Leonard, brother to brother, help me save your daughter from herself. He stood there, snow collecting on his shoulders, tears freezing on his cheeks. Then he trembled. She's my daughter, Vernon. How can I? His voice broke. He pulled out his phone. His hand shook as he dialed. I heard it ring twice before Leah answered. Leonard had put it on speaker, his hands shaking too much to hold it steady. Her voice came through tinny and distant. Dad. Leah, sweetheart, We need to stop this. Delete the files. It's over. A pause. Then what, Dad? What are you talking about? Your Uncle Vernon and I, we've talked. This isn't the way. Uncle, her voice went sharp. He's not your brother, Dad. He's the man who abandoned you. He didn't abandon me. Life separated us. There's a difference. So you're choosing him over me, after everything I've done for you. Leonard's voice broke. I'm choosing what's right, Leah. Please, I'm begging you. The silence stretched out endless seconds in the falling snow. Then Leah's voice came back cold as the winter air around us. Then you've lost me. The line went dead. Leonard collapsed, a sound somewhere between a sob and a scream tearing from his throat. She's going to release everything tonight. Right now. I put my hand on his shoulder. Then we need to stop her. Together. A figure stepped from the shadows near the playground equipment. Leonard jerked back, startled. Detective Davis Riley emerged into the lamplight, radio in hand. You, Leonard whispered, understanding flooding his face. You set this up. I needed proof, I said, and I needed you to make the right choice. Leonard looked between us, betrayed and broken. But then something shifted in his expression. Not anger, resignation, maybe even relief. She's my daughter, he said to Riley. But she's about to commit a serious crime, and I can't let her destroy herself any more than she already has. Riley nodded. I need you to make a formal statement. Everything you know about the computer fraud, the blackmail, the forged documents. Leonard took a shaky breath. Okay. Riley raised his radio. Go now. Miles away in a third-floor apartment in Somerville, 4 officers moved quickly. They'd been waiting for this signal, parked in unmarked cars with a warrant already signed by a judge who'd been roused from his New Year's celebration. They reached Leah's door. No knock, no warning. The warrant and the urgency of the situation gave them authority for immediate entry. The door came down. Leah sat at a small desk laptop, open fingers flying across the keyboard. On the screen, a progress bar inched forward. 10% complete. Files uploading to a dark web server where they'd be automatically distributed to media outlets posted on public forums, spread across the internet like wildfire. Police hands up. Leah's head snapped around, eyes wide with shock. Her hand moved toward the laptop, maybe to speed up the upload, maybe to shut it down. An officer was faster. He grabbed the power cord, yanked it from the wall. The laptop died instantly, the upload severed mid-transfer. Leah Mitchell, you're under arrest for computer fraud, identity theft, and extortion. They pulled her hands behind her back, all snapped handcuffs around her wrists. She was screaming something, words I wouldn't hear until later from the officer's reports. Something about justice, about Vernon Ashford stealing her father's life. Riley's phone rang. He answered, listened, then turned to us with something like relief on his weathered face. We got her, just in time. 10% uploaded, but we stopped the transfer. Your client's data is safe. Leonard collapsed onto the bench beside me, his face in his hands. The sound he made was raw animal, the sound of a father who'd just sent his own daughter to prison. I just sent my own daughter to prison. I sat down next to him, the cold from the wooden bench seeping through my coat. No, Leonard, you just saved her life. He looked up at me, tears freezing on his cheeks. How? Because now she faces consequences she can recover from. 18 months, maybe 2 years. For everyone. 3 weeks passed before we sat down in Margaret's office to finalize everything. The plea agreement was clear and limited. Leah would plead guilty to computer fraud and identity theft. She would serve 18 months in minimum security, followed by 3 years of probation and mandatory community service teaching, cybersecurity awareness to at-risk youth. In return, the prosecutor agreed not to pursue additional charges that could have resulted in a decade or more in federal prison. Margaret had negotiated one final provision. When Leah completed her sentence, a position would be waiting for her at Ashford Properties. Not in real estate, I was not that forgiving, but in our IT security division, where her considerable skills could be used to protect systems rather than exploit them. You're giving her a second chance, Margaret said, more observation than question. Everyone deserves one, I replied, even people who tried to destroy me. The second agreement was simpler. I transferred the Commonwealth Avenue apartment to Leonard, not because he had blackmailed me, but because 65 years earlier, we had been 2 7-year-old boys standing in a social worker's office, and one of us had been chosen while the other was forgotten. I couldn't change the past, but I could change what happened next. Leonard moved into my Beacon Hill brownstone the following week. The guest room on the second floor became his, and for the first time since Catherine died, the house no longer felt hollow. In the months that followed, we did what brothers should have done for decades. We talked about our mother, the woman neither of us remembered clearly, yet both had missed our entire lives, about the playground where we raced to the swings, about the paths we'd taken and the men we'd become. Leonard taught me things I'd forgotten during years of empire building, how to appreciate a quiet morning, how to enjoy unhurried conversation, how to release the constant drive that had defined my life. I gave him what he had never known: safety, comfort, and a brother's presence in his final days. Leah was granted compassionate leave several times to visit. The first visit was tense and angry. She barely spoke to me and treated the brownstone like hostile ground. By the third visit, something softened. She sat beside her father, held his hand, and when she looked at me, I saw understanding beginning to replace rage. "Thank you," she said once quietly as I brought Leonard his medication, "for not destroying him along with me." "He's my brother," I answered. "That still matters." In late April, as spring returned to Boston and cherry blossoms bloomed along the Charles River, Leonard passed away peacefully in the brownstone. It was a quiet morning, sunlight filling the room. Leah was there on temporary release. I was there too. As Leonard took his final breath, he looked at me and whispered, "Thank you for finding me, brother." The funeral was small. Maxwell and Margot attended, as did Natalie, forgiven if not fully trusted Margaret Detective Riley, and a few others who had known Leonard briefly. I spoke about forgiveness, about how wealth is not measured in accounts or properties, but in the bonds we build and the grace we offer. About how my brother taught me more in 4 months than 40 years of business had. Afterward, I revised my will. Ashford properties would be divided equally between Maxwell and Margot with a condition that neither could sell without the other's consent. The remaining apartments would go to my children. I also established the Ashford Marshall Foundation, dedicated to helping foster children transition into adulthood. Looking back on this journey, I realize how close I came to losing what truly mattered. Don't be like I was building walls so high that family couldn't reach you. Don't let pride and success blind you to the people who share your blood, your history, your heart. God gave me 72 years to learn a simple truth: empathy is stronger than empire. When Leonard stood before me, broken and desperate, God whispered that forgiveness was the only path forward. And when I finally listened, God showed me that the greatest wealth isn't measured in properties or bank accounts, but in the moments we share with those we love. This true story, this grandpa story I'm sharing with you, taught me that it's never too late to choose connection over judgment. Every true story of reconciliation begins with someone brave enough to lower their walls. These grandpa stories we pass down matter because they carry wisdom earned through pain and grace. Every grandpa story worth telling ends with lessons that can change lives, just as this true story changed mine. My brother and I lost 65 years. Don't make that mistake. If these grandpa stories moved you, please share them with someone who needs hope. Leave a comment about your own family journey, and subscribe for more grandpa stories that remind us what truly matters.